So, solutions for the mock paper 2, year 11. Okay, so bearing in mind this is a non-calculator paper as suggested. Calculators may not use this paper, so everything we do must be done without a calculator. So, starting in question 1, 0.3 squared. So we've got 0.3 times 0.3, so whatever method you want to use, 2 decimal places in the question gives you 2 decimal places in the answer. Whether you want to convert to fractions and do it that way, either way, the answer you get is 0.09. Find n when 5 over 6 is equivalent to n over 24, so that's times by 4, so is that. So n will be 20. N is 20. Laws of indices. So 25 to the power of 0. Well, everything is to the power of 0 is 1. So it doesn't matter what that number is. Any number to the power of 0 will equal 1. We need to be able to convert 3 over 2, or at least understand it as 100 to the power of a half and then cubed, or 100 cubed to the power of a half. We need to remember that the power of a half is the same as square root. So I'm going to do this one because that gives me square root of 100 cubed. Now, square root of 100 is 10, so 10 cubed. 10 cubed is 10 times 10 times 10, so 1,000. Writing as a single power of 5. Okay. So we've got 5 to the power of 12. Let's simplify the bottom first. So 5 to the power of 12 over 5 to the power, when it's multiplied, we add the powers to the power of 5. When we've got a division, we then subtract the powers. So it's 12 minus 5. So it's 5 to the power of 7. So that's the single power of 5. Be careful, because single power of 5 does not mean turn it into a number. You've got to understand it's a power of 5. Okay? Okay, so question 3. We've got many parts to this. We'll take it in turns to do little bits. So first of all, we need to know there are 400 students at a school, so total boys and girls. 2/5 are boys, which means there must be 3/5 that are girls. Okay, so what we could do with is working out 400 divided by 5. Okay, so 1/5 of 400 is 80. So 40 divided by 5 is 8, with another 0 is 80. Right? So that means 2/5 are boys. So down on this table, the total, so 2/5 makes 160. Double that. 3/5 needs to be 240. And we just check, should add up to 400. It does. So 70% of the girls can swim, so I need 70% of 240. So 70% of 240, well, I do it. 10% is 24, so 7 times 24 will give me the 70%, so 7 times 20 is 14 with a 0. 7 times the 4 gives me 28, so the answer is 168. Now just check that 70% of the girls can swim. So, can swim girls, 168. Right? So now we can work out the rest. So there's 168, we've got 240, okay. We have to do 240 subtract 168, so I'm going to have to do 3, 10, so it's 2, can't do that, make that a 1, make that a 13, 6, that's 7, so 0, so it's 72, however you want to do that. Okay. Okay, the next bit of information is the ratio of boys that cannot swim to girls that cannot swim is 2 to 3. So you can write 2 here, 3 here, there's the ratio, and then this has to be equivalent. So 3 times something makes 72, and then we need 2 times the same thing. Okay? So we know that try and do 72 divided by 3, well, kind of a 2 on the end mark, makes me just 12, which makes 60 and 12, so divided by 3 would make 24. So it's 3 times 24 makes the 72, so we need 2 times 24 to make the 48. So now it's in the ratio 2 to 3. And then finally, to finish the table off, got to add up to 160. So that's an easy one. So it's 100 and, sorry, that out. Oh no. So we've got 112 is the answer. Okay. Don't forget the total. So we've got 270, 80, 280 there. And then this should be 120 to make the 400. So 72, 48 does indeed make 120. Okay, so question 4 about a biased die, which means the probabilities are affected. Talk about throwing a 6, so normally it'd be 1 out of 6, but we've got these results. So each of these people has rolled the dice this many times, and this is how many 6s they've got. So we've got to complete this table, zoom out. Complete the table below. Make sure you read the question, write your answers as decimals. So, Annette, so 46 out of the 200, okay, but we've got to write as a decimal, or we've got no calculator, so that would be 23 out of 100. Now we can write that as decimal, because divide by 100 is easy, so we've got 0.23. So that's the first one. The next one, we've got 12 out of 40 for Baba. So I'm going to go down to 20, just as easy, or down to 10, but I've got 6 out of 20, which then goes up to out of 100, so times 5 to get to 100. So 60 times 5 is 30. So again, it's 0.3 is that one. Celine, nice and easy, he's already 15 out of 100, so that's 0.15. And we've got 100 out of 500 for Dieter, which, get rid of those, is 1 out of 5, which you might remember is 0.2, but if we start with 1 out of 5, that's 2 out of 10, so 0.2. Okay, so next bit, zoom in. Whose result gives the best estimate of the probability of throwing a 6 with a biased die? Give a reason. Well, estimates are all about how often do you do something. So we know Dieter did it 500 times. So we would be saying Dieter because they rolled the most times. Now, obviously, for 1 mark, you've got to have both bits. You can't put a name and no reason. Right? And it's all about rolling it the most number of times. The probability of throwing a 6 with a different biased die is 0.41. Find the expected number of sixes when this die is thrown. So we could do 0.41 times 600, which if you can do it in your head, that's fine. I would also say it's 41 out of 100. So if it's 600 times, if we multiply that by 6, so 41 times 6. So 40 times 6 and 1 times 6 will give you the answer, so that's 240 plus the 6, so we would expect 246 times. Okay, so we've got to find the middle of 2 points, A and B. However you want to do it, I like to visualise. I've got point A, point B, doesn't really matter. I know that the x-coordinate for point A is 2, the x-coordinate for B is at 6. I've actually got these the wrong way around because B should be down at 0. So the y-coordinate at 0, and A should have a y-coordinate up at 8. Right? So now I've got it the right way around. Then to find the midpoint, all we have to do is find the middle. So the middle of 0 to 8. Okay? So middle of 0 and 8 is 4. 2 to 6 is a difference of 4, so halfway is 2, so we've got a middle point of 4. So the coordinate, midway through, you can see it with the diagram, will be at 4, 4. Now there are other ways to do it, but that's the way I do it. The gradient of line AB, again, if I want to use my diagram, gradient, you might remember as rise over run. Some people remember y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Either way, the rise is from 0 to 8. Actually, it's going down. Forget that. So we go from 8 to 0. So it's a drop of 8, so it's minus 8. And the run is from 2 to 6 of is 4. So the gradient is minus 8 divided by 4 is minus 2. Okay. So simplify these squared. Now, one thing I always have to say is this is not 5 squared plus root 3 squared. Please don't do that. It is not that. When you have brackets squared, rewrite it as 5 plus root 3. And it's squared, so that means it's times by itself. Right? And then you multiply it out, so we've got 5 times 5 is 25. Root 3 times root 3 is 3. Then we've got plus 5 root 3 and plus another 5 root 3. So we collect the like terms. We've got 28 and we've got 10 root 3's. So that's our answer. 28 plus 10 root 3. Okay, so we've got an inequality here where on one side 2x plus 3 has to be less than or equal to 4 times x minus 2. So what we need to do is find the equals point. So that's where you'll probably have seen we would do 2x plus 3 equals 4 times x minus 2, and what I'm going to do is multiply that out to 4x minus 8, and I'm going to solve it. So whatever method you're used to using, so I'm going to add 8 to both sides, so I get 2x plus, if I add 8 there as well, I get plus 11 equals 4x. The next stage is to take away 2x from both sides, leave me with 11 equals 2x. So then I divide both sides by 2, gives me x equals 5.5. Now, you've got to do a check because I need to put this symbol in, so I would either do x and just put the symbol back in. 5.5. But that means for this to be true, x has to be something greater than 5.5. So I'm going to try when x equals 6. I'm going to do 2 times 6 plus 3 should be less than or equal to 4 times 6 minus 2. And if this is true, we're okay. So I've got 12 plus 3 is 15, should be less than or equal to 4 times 4 makes 16, and it is, so we're happy that x should be greater than or equal to 5.5. Make sure you get it the right way around. Don't forget to put the symbol back in. If you leave it as an equal sign, you're not going to get your marks. I'm going to finish 3 marks. Okay, let's move on. Okay, the 3-dimensional geometry stuff. So we've got, just looking at the picture, cylinder, cone on top. Right? We've got the radius of the cone. That would also be the radius of the cylinder. So I'm just putting it in just for my benefit. So calculate the total volume of the shape. Leave your answer as a multiple of pi. That's important. Okay. So what we've got is cone plus cylinder. Now let's just check up here on the front. We've got here the volume of cylinder, so V pi r squared h, and we've got volume of a cone 1/3 pi r h. Okay, so go back here. So we've got pi r h. Okay, pi r squared h. Just check. Pi r squared h, and we've got 1/3 pi r squared h. So 1/3 pi r squared h. So total volume. So we've just got to start putting it in now. So we've got 1/3 times r squared. I'm going to do that next. So r we've seen is 6. So that's 36 times the height of the cone is 3. So I'm going to put the 3 there, and then I'm going to put pi. And then we've got plus, again, 36 times the height of the cylinder is 10. 6 times 10 times pi then as well. So now we've just got to simplify. So we've got 1/3 times 3, we can kind of forget about that. So we've got 36 pi there, and we've got plus 360 pi here. So 36 plus 300 is 396 pi. And we don't have to do anything about it because it's a multiple of pi. Okay, moving on. Simultaneous equations. So you've either got elimination or substitution method. Suggests with the way it's set out, it's going to be an elimination method because we don't have one x or one y. So with the elimination method, we have to have the same amount of x's or y's in both. So don't forget your labelling 1 and 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the x's and make sure I find the lowest common denominator, or not denominator, but lowest common multiple. So lowest common multiple of 5 and 4 is 20. So we need to do times by 4 times by 5. So my new number 1 is 20x plus 8y equals 44. My new number 2 will be 20x minus 15y. So 18 times 5. So 18 times 5, so I've got 10 times 5 is 50. 8 times 5 is 40, so it's 90. Okay, so now we do our subtraction. So subtracting, I'm going to do 2 subtract 1, that gets rid of my x's, I've got no x's. 90 subtract 44 makes 46. Now minus 15y subtract 8y makes minus 23y, which is very handy because obviously those numbers are quite nice. So I've got y then is 46 divided by minus 23. So y is minus 2. Okay, so that's half of it. Then I've got to put this into any of the ones I like. So I'm going to choose number 1. I'm going to do 5x plus 2 times minus 2 equals 11. So that's 5x minus 4 equals 11. So add 4 to both sides makes 5x equal, add 4 here, makes 15, which makes x. 15 divided by 5 is 3. So there's my second part to it. Okay, so we're looking at angles, triangles, that kind of thing. Don't make any assumptions about lengths. It does say not to scale, so we can only calculate things. So I would suggest just filling in stuff that you can see. So we've got 30, this is obviously 90, this has to add up to 180, so that angle there is going to be 60 degrees. Okay, that's 90, we already know. And now I'll have a look, write down the value of x. So I've got x here, I've got a right angled triangle, I've got a hypotenuse, this is the whichever angle I want to use, so I'm going to use the 30, so this becomes the opposite side, so we've got trigonometry. Now normally you'd think, well, trigonometry, definitely need my calculator, but this is one of those that you need to have remembered. Remember from our unit circle there's certain values of 30 degrees, 60 degrees, 45 degrees that we need to remember. So if you went back to your triangles, need to remind you, we've got the 2, 2, 2, which gives us 60, cut it in half, makes 30. This was a root 3, and this was a 1, right? So then we've kind of got this situation, right? So we've got the 2, which is this side, we've got the 30 degrees, we've got the 60 degrees. So we would apply x equals 1. We don't need to, but we then would know this side equals root 3. But we only need to know x, and x is 1. Right? It is only 1 mark, so you can see that is just something you need to have remembered. Right? Again, that then leads us to this triangle, which is the other triangle that we worked at, which is a 1, 1, and then it was a root 2, because that was 45, 45. And we've seen that we've got the 1, and we've got the 1, 90, which means this must be 45 degrees. So think back to your unit circle work for that one. Right, circle theorems. So sometimes these do take a while. So just try and think things through logically and fill out any answers that you do know. Use a highlighter, identify whatever you can from it. Okay, so first one I'll identify is that this angle, remember from your circle theorem, okay, is the same as this angle up here. So I can put that in, 55 degrees, right? This angle would be the same as this one, but we're not using that one. Right? Now this angle is then related to this one because we've got points on the circumference and the third one, and then we've got this point in the middle. So we know this one is double that one. So it's 110 degrees, and that is angle C to O to D. 110 degrees. Okay. 2 marks for that, that's why you've got to work out this one first. There is actually another way to get this, because we've actually doing this, we've already worked out DAC to be 55. So there is another way to work out COD. So I'll take you through that as well. So I'll get rid of the notes. Right. I think this is what they were expecting, which is that when we have a tangent and you have the normal to that going to 0, this angle here must be 90. So this is 45, this must be 35 degrees, and being that this triangle is isosceles because that's the radius and so is that, that means this angle and this angle are the same, so that makes another 35. 35 makes 70, must make 180, so that must be 110. Another way to work out that's 110. Now, I say this is probably what they were expecting, because then you use half of that to find DAC is 55. But we got there either way, whichever way suits you best. Okay. Angle ABC. So A to B to C. Well, so we're looking for this angle. Now what we do have, again with my highlighter, is a cyclic quadrilateral. So I highlight that. And what we have already calculated is that this angle within my cyclic quadrilateral is 40 and 35, makes 75. Now, opposite angles in a cyclic quadrilateral add up to 180 degrees. Okay, so we need 180 minus the 75 that we've worked out there, so that's the 75. So we've got 105 degrees left. Simple. Okay, carry on. Okay, sketches of graphs. So in the table are 4 functions. Write the letter correct with the graph. So let's just zoom out a bit so it's a bit small. Okay, so we know linear and linear. Linear is something mx plus c. So we know that's an mx plus c. This is an mx plus c. We know this one has a positive gradient. This one has a negative gradient. Therefore, we've actually got another linear there, so that we've got 2 positives, so that one of those could be that. This one's a negative, so this one has to be A. And let's just check, because if that's the intercept at 5, yeah, makes sense. Now this one could either be this one or this one, but we know it's a positive gradient but negative intercept, so that must be here, that negative intercept. So this one must be an F. So let's get rid of that one, it's done, get rid of that one, finished. So now this one is a quadratic because of the squared, so that's this one or this one. Right. Now quadratic squared, so we've got x minus 2 squared, looks like this, like we had earlier. That means if I do that equaling 0, which is where a curve cuts the x-axis, they're both the same, so it would be x equals 2 is only one solution, therefore it can only touch the x-axis once, so it has to be this one. So that would be a solution of 2, so it has to be E. This one has 2 solutions, 2 different solutions there and there, so it can't be that one. Now this one is a cubic, that's the shape of a cubic, so it has to be that one. So we've got that one sorted. And the other two, we haven't got anything for that one. And now we are all done. So, in reviewing that, if you think I've made any mistakes, which I may well have done, come and let me know after you've gone through and marked all your work.